Hey everyone, it's Miss Vinnie. Today on About Transplant Life, my very special guest is Rachel Bennett Steury, an extraordinary woman whose life demonstrates the profound impact one person can make through compassion, courage, and purpose. Rachel made the remarkable decision to donate a kidney to a total stranger through a kidney chain coordinated by the National Kidney Registry, a life-saving act of altruism that not only saves lives, but transformed her journey in ways she never imagined. Rachel is also a dedicated advocate for organ donation and transplant, and she was also a walker on the One Legacy Donate Life Rose Parade float. Rachel's story as a cancer survivor empowers her to have compassion for others, and sharing her story gives them encouragement. Rachel Bennett Steury is also a published author whose inspiring memoir promises to inspire and encourage others along their transplant journeys. Her new book is entitled Losing My Kidney and Finding My Voice, Confessions of a Living Donor, and we are going to talk about it. Hey everyone, welcome to About Transplant Life. I am your host, Miss Vinnie, and I am a heart transplant recipient who loves to share stories about the power of love. Today's episode is truly special because we are speaking with an extraordinary woman whose life demonstrates the profound impact one person can make through compassion, courage, and purpose. My very special guest is Rachel Bennett Steury. Rachel is a living kidney donor, an advocate, a speaker, and now she is a published author of the inspiring memoir, Losing My Kidney and Finding My Voice, Confessions of a Living Donor. That's powerful. Rachel made the remarkable decision to donate a kidney to a total stranger through the kidney chain coordinated by the National Kidney Registry in a life-saving act of altruism that not only saved lives, but transformed her and propelled her into her own journey in ways she could never imagine. Now, Rachel has become a powerful voice for living donor awareness and education, and we are going to talk about it right now. Welcome, my dear friend, to the stage, Rachel.
Thank you.
Hi, Rachel.
I'm glad to be here with you.
It's so good to see you. And you are joining me from the beautiful state of Hawaii, right?
I am. I'm on Maui.
You're on Maui. That's great. That's great. How is Maui doing?
Maui's hot.
That's good.
Really,
That's
beautiful and hot.
beautiful and hot. Okay, well, very, very good. Thank you for joining me. I've been looking forward to talking to you. You know, we've been friends for quite some time, and we first met as One Legacy ambassadors, right?
Yes, we did. Yes, we did. That it seems so long ago, but it really wasn't.
I know. So I joined the ambassador program in 2016, right after I had my heart transplant. So when did you become an ambassador?
I joined in the spring of 2016.
Did you?
Mhm.
Okay, very, very good. And we worked on several projects together over the years. And you were also selected to be a walker in in the One Legacy Donate Life Rose Parade float in 2019. So what was that experience like for you?
It just felt wild to be in such an impactful parade. I did not realize until our volunteer time how big of a reach the float actually had.
Right.
All across the world, people were watching it. And as I was walking along, I was getting texts from friends across the country of me walking because we're seeing it in different parts of the country. So I did not realize what an impactful event that was until we were doing all the volunteer work behind the scenes for it.
So I was a writer on the Rose Parade float in 2020, and I can truly tell you that it was a ride of a lifetime, and we're still talking about it, right? All these
Right.
years later, all of the ceremonies that we had, and seeing all the people from, like you said, all over the world that participated in the parade. It was truly, and being a One Legacy ambassador really prepared me for transplant life, right? Because when I first became, a transplant recipient, I had no idea how this life was going to work for me, right? I was still wrapping my head around the medications and how I was feeling, and and the side effects I was dealing with. And when you're going through that, it seems like you're alone in the world. But becoming a One Legacy ambassador, I was surrounded by people just like me, transplant recipients, donor family members, everyone. And I have to tell you that out of all the people I met, I think that living kidney donors are the most courageous people that you ever want to meet. And so, you are a living kidney donor. You actually shared your spare, Rachel. My goodness. So let me ask you this question. What led you to becoming an altruistic living kidney donor? And what is that?
Well, it's actually the title of chapter 1 of my book answers this question. It's called Katie Couric Made Me Do It. Because I watched a news segment from Katie Couric, CBS Evening News, and
Mm-hmm.
she outlined the story of a kidney chain and how 20 people who were most of them were complete strangers were finally connected through a kidney chain across the country, from one donor to a recipient, from another donor to a recipient. And Katie Couric was that light bulb in my head for me to consider that. The story of the kidney chain that was started by Max Zapata, who is also from California. Um, that's what started this for me, Miss Vinnie.
Okay, and so what year was that you said yes to organ donation and shared your spare? What year was that?
Well, it was 2010 when Katie Couric showed this news segment. And at the time, it was introducing the world to the National Kidney Registry, which was very new. It had just started in 2008.
Mm.
And so the idea of a kidney chain was also fairly new. So things did not happen as quickly as I expected them to. um,
Can you
Basically,
explain how
I,
the process works? That's my next question. Where did it
yes.
go? How can you explain how the process works?
So the process of a kidney chain is if you have someone in need of a kidney and someone in their life who wants to give them one but is unable to because they're incompatible, maybe they don't match for one reason or another, there could be other incompatible pairs across the country who, if you connect the dots, the four of them could match or eight of them
Oh,
could match.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so there's this chain reaction of donations that could happen across the country when you put all of the HLA testing into the system to see whose kidney matches who. And for a kidney chain, it has to start, of course, with one person who has a kidney to give and no one to give it to. And for that Katie Couric news segment, it was a guy named Max from Clovis, California. And I was just blown away at how he just matter of factly said this thing. And, he listened to his God. God talked to him. He felt that it was in his ability to do this because
Mm.
God was speaking through him. And 20 lives were interconnected because of that. And the
Look
story,
at God. Isn't he amazing? I told you I might spontaneously combust. There it is.
it was just such a great story, and you could see how I was just blown away by that. Like this thing that felt very big, he just instantly, as a matter of fact, just did. And it felt easy for me to consider it as well. And oh yeah, of course, this is a thing that I should do because I'll be able to help someone. I'll be able to help more than one someone, starting a chain because I didn't have anyone to donate to, but I felt like I wanted to do this.
Well, I just believe God was speaking to you too. That's what I believe, and empowered you to do that. But let me ask you this: how emotional was the process of altruistic donation? I mean, actually giving one of your organs to someone and you didn't know where it was going, right? Or who was going to receive it. And you're never going to see it again, Rachel. How how emotional was that?
Well, honestly, it wasn't emotional at all. It felt very much like I was on autopilot to do this. I
Wow.
didn't feel anxiety or stress in any way. I just felt like I needed to do this. It was important. I did the research. Um, I knew I was going to help multiple people by doing it.
Mhm.
So I didn't feel any way out of the ordinary. I'm an empath already, so I feel everything all the time, but I didn't feel anything new um, by doing it. I just felt like I needed to do this. Let's set it up. It took a little longer than I anticipated. It took
What do you
almost
mean by that? The process, the evaluation process, and all of that?
right. I did not realize the amount of testing that donors, potential donors, went through in order to qualify. And I understand it now, but at the time, I felt very impatient with the whole system.
Yeah, I
Yeah, so
get
it
it.
took almost a year and a half, almost 2 years to donate.
Really? That's a long time.
Right, and a lot of testing, but everything is a lot streamlined now, more so than it was back then. Yeah.
So, did you have any challenges health wise? Did they find anything that kind of hindered the process, or was it just getting all the tests done in time? It wasn't any issues, right?
No, there weren't any issues. I had to get a few tests redone just to verify that everything was okay, but I had blood work and I had a psychology exam, a psychiatric evaluation. I had two of those. And I don't like to talk about myself. so,
So,
so that
give me an example of one of the questions they probably asked you during the psych exam. That's so interesting.
well, they want to ask, do you understand what you're getting into? Have
Yeah.
you asked all the questions you need to? Tell me about your family. How is the history of the health in your family? And so some of those questions were hard for me to answer because um, I kind of have a protective nature about my personal family life, but I still had to share it all.
Well, you said in your book that your uncle was a deceased donor. So, how did his story impact your decision to become a living donor?
Right. So my uncle Ed, he died when I was a kid, and he died by suicide.
Sorry to
He
hear
was
that.
a deceased donor when he passed away, and sometimes families they don't have the capacity to make decisions when they're grieving. Right.
Right.
When my uncle died, that could have been the case. However, my family and my grandmother, at the reins, of course, decided to have him become a deceased donor, an organ and tissue donor. And so he impacted my decision greatly, Miss Vinnie, because my grandma, she received a letter from the organ procurement organization in Indiana, where my Uncle Ed was a donor,
Hmm.
and it detailed how many people he helped and where across the world he helped. You know, from
Wow.
South Bend, Indiana, all the way to Puerto Rico, my Uncle Ed helped save the lives of others. And my grandma shared that story consistently through my life, to a point where when I'm watching Katie Couric talk about a kidney chain, of course I'm thinking about my Uncle Ed, and my grandmother made it so. Yeah.
That's a beautiful story. Wow. So, and then this is why in your memoir you talk about family grief, loss, and even suicide. That was your uncle. And how did these experiences shape your understanding of compassion, healing, and purpose?
Well, I like to compare this to the notion of solidarity, right? Because I'm from the labor movement. Solidarity is where you look out for each other and you do things all for one together. And when I looked at kidney disease, end stage renal failure, when I looked at what people who did not have the health that I had, when I looked at their lives and what situations they were faced with, hours on dialysis, unable to go to family events because they're too far away, I felt kind of this sense of camaraderie with them, that I could help them have that sense of freedom again, right? If
Yeah,
people like me, donors, would come forward, we can help people have their freedom back to live their life, to go to work, to go to their cousin's wedding in the neighboring state. So I felt like looking out for each other is the core of what I have done through my life and how I see the world, right? I want to help and look out for other people just as I want them to look out for me.
amen. You also write about this in your memoir. Influences from some very special people. You talked about Katie, like your grandmother. What lessons or moments from them stayed with you most deeply?
Well, my grandmother was the rock of our family. And many grandmothers are, right? Grandmas are your first
Mhm.
best friend. They are foundational to a lot of families, including mine. And with my grandma, she talked about the hard stuff all of the time. The other side of my family, we don't talk about anything. And so having my grand
Your
having my
grandma sounds like me because I like talking about the hard stuff. You got to get it out. You got to let them know. I told my grandkids all about the hard stuff real early. And so they're like, whoa, this is deep. I'm like, yeah, you need to know.
Yes, that was my grandma. Yeah, and she talked about my Uncle Ed all the time. She brought up how he lived his life, how he saved so many lives in his death, and just her strength in rolling with the punches all her life. We came from a very working class family. My grandma never made more than $2 an hour working as a waitress for 53 years. But she knew how to build her family, and she did that collectively, um, with help from her neighbors and her friends and the extended family. And so I learned a lot from my grandma.
So let me ask you this. What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about living kidney donation? Let's talk about that.
Well, one thing is that it might be limiting for you after you donate a kidney. You might not be able to do all the things you used to do, like drink or get pregnant or play in sports. But all of that is false. Everything you do in moderation is totally fine. Whatever you eat or drink, you are not limited in any sort of sports or activities. I like to joke that I will never plan to be a professional wrestler, because that would probably be, I would get punched in the kidneys and that would be it. But
Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! We can't have that.
nope, nope. So I won't become a professional wrestler. But aside from that, there aren't any restrictions for me.
That's good.
Some folks think it might cost a lot of money for a donor to become a donor. but it does not.
They take care of you, right? They take care of everything.
Right. The
It doesn't
recipient,
cost to be tested or anything like that, and so that's beautiful. Thank you so
exactly.
much for that, giving that generous gift of life to someone. Do you know who your recipient is?
I do. I know
You
who,
do?
yes, I know who both of the recipients are in my chain. So my surgery happened in Chicago. That was the only hospital at the time that was performing kidney chains. It was Loyola, and my kidney flew without me to Pennsylvania. And in exchange, someone in that man's life gave their kidney away, and it flew back to Chicago to a man down the hall from me, which I didn't even know he was down the hall from me at the time.
Wow. That's
Yes,
incredible.
yes, it is. It is, and I've been able to communicate with both of the recipients, particularly Harry in Chicago, who was down the hall from me. Him and I talk all the time. He's such a great person to have in my life now. Him and his family, and
That's
we keep
beautiful.
tabs on each other just to check in on our health all the time to see how we're doing.
So everything that you have gone through has led you to this place. And now you are a published author. And the title of your book is Losing My Kidney, Finding My Voice, Confessions of a Living Donor. So, what inspired you to write this powerful memoir?
Miss Vinnie, our life after donation is pretty incredible. Your life after being a recipient, also, right?
Right.
Pretty incredible. And for me, I did not realize after I donated all of the things that would happen. I did not realize groups like One Legacy were even in the business of bringing people like us together. And
Right?
so I felt like, after my donation, I volunteered in Indiana with an organ procurement organization. And then when I moved to LA, I volunteered with you at One Legacy. And I felt like we had so many experiences um, that I had to share it. I had to share not only the story of my uncle, who was my key motivator, and how he saved the lives of so many people, but that we as a group are just engaged and mobilized to help people across the country. And I begin and end my book with the Rose Parade, which we just talked about, and how impactful that experience was for me. So, my hope out of writing this book is just to, one, let people see the experiences of a kidney chain and a donation unfold,
Mm-hmm.
and two, to see that there are communities on the other side of this where we can connect together and work on ending the wait list together.
That's powerful. So let's talk about that. The book and what's going on with the book. Where can we find it?
So the book is in Barnes and Noble. It's on Amazon. It's across the country in paperback and ebook. And if you live outside of the country, it's also available. If you just Google the name, you will be able to find it. Additionally, I have it on Libby at the library, LA Public Library. I have seen it. So we can find it at our libraries. We can also find it on Hoopla, which will be available in the coming weeks.
Hoopla. Tell me about Hoopla. What's that?
So Hoopla is, if you have a library subscription or a membership,
Mm-hmm.
they many of them give you Hoopla for free as part of your library membership. And it is where you can access ebooks, audiobooks, movies, music, and it's Hoopla, Hoopla.
I'll put that up there too.
Mhm.
Hoopla. Is it .com?
Yes, yes,
Hoopla.com.
yeah.
That's really, really cool. So what is the primary goal for losing my kidney, finding my voice? Why did you title it that? Finding my voice. That's so powerful.
So my title, I was advised that if you tell the story in your title, people will know if they want to pick it up or not. And so
Mhm.
I tried to just summarize the contents by losing my kidney and finding my voice, because while I gave my kidney away, in the process I found a voice and an ability to make an impact that I didn't realize I had. And so I found my voice because I hate talking about myself.
Well, honey, you're gonna have to get over that.
And I felt like, because the importance of kidney donation was it was so important for me to share kidney donation with readers. um, I had to get over that,
Yeah,
and
you
had
do.
to start I had to start talking about my donation as a matter of helping other people, not a matter of talking about myself. I had to set it aside. And so I did find my voice to talk about things that I hadn't talked about before, um, because I knew it would help other people. I was standing in my own way, honestly. I
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
Mhm.
You mentioned on your Facebook page, I kind of went cruising through your Facebook a little bit, that you are also a cancer survivor. Do you want to talk about that? Did you talk about
Sure.
that in your book? I don't remember if I saw
I
that or not.
don't No, I don't write about that in this book. I am writing about it on Substack. I have stories from the cancer trail on my Substack, The Real Rachel BS. And those are just short stories about things that happened with me in my cancer treatment. It was 3 years ago, I was diagnosed with stage 1 invasive ductal carcinoma, so breast cancer.
Wow.
And I had treatment, I had a lumpectomy, and I had radiation, and now I'm on hormone blockers. So it's a it's just a roller coaster of a learning opportunity here for me, but also when I learn something, I like to share it, which is why I'm writing about it as well.
Well, you're going to have to come back about Transplant Life and tell us all about this second book that you're writing, about, surviving, you know, one of the scariest diagnoses you could ever get, right? But, you're on the other side of it. And I am so grateful. You, my dear friend Rachel, are probably one of the most courageous people I've ever met on this platform ever. Number one, you're a living kidney donor. You shared your spare, and that's just so generous, so wonderful to do that, putting yourself second and thinking about other people, and saving a life is the greatest gift you could give someone, and as a heart transplant recipient, that really touches me in a very special way, because someone said yes to organ donation, and by the grace of God, here I am talking to you almost 12 years later, when doctors gave up on me many, many times. I was just telling a friend of mine that I remember going to the hospital with my old heart, and the doctor said, "Well, there's nothing we can do for you. I hope you got your affairs in order."
Yikes.
Like literally. And then they put me in this room and left me there for hours. Just left me there. And so I finally got the wherewithal to call a family member and say, they just left me in this room. I've been here for hours. It's this huge room with chairs in it, and tissue. And she said, "Oh, that's where they put people when they think they're going to die." I kid you not. And so, a hospital in Southern California, I ain't going to say no name.
Wow.
I should, but I'm not. And I called my mother. She was still living. And I said, "Mom, come get me out of this hospital right now." And she came to pick me up. And even when she walked in the room, she said, "This room is giving me the creeps. You got to go." And here I am. I didn't die. By God's grace, I'm still here. And so, what you did was very, very courageous. So I am so glad that you are here to talk about your new book, Losing My Kidney and Finding My Voice. I think that is such a powerful title. And it's just going to be the number one best selling book on Amazon. That's my prophecy for you today. It's going to be the number one best selling book, and it's going to help a lot of people, inspire them, to become living donors. And so, here's my last question. I don't think I put it in a banner. What would you say to someone who was considering becoming a living kidney donor and they was kind of like uncertain? Oh, I did. There it is. What would you say to someone who may be considering becoming a living donor but feels afraid or uncertain about taking that step? Rachel, what would you say?
I would say there are now enough of us that it would be easy to identify many of us to talk to compare notes, to ask questions. Even now, NKDO, which is the National Kidney Donation Organization, it is the group that connects living donors to collaborate and support each other. So I would suggest reaching out to them, and also just reading a book by a living donor who right now.
Shameless plug, absolutely. That's what you would say, absolutely.
You know,
Read "Losing My Kidney: Finding My Voice: The Confessions of a Living Kidney Donor," and that will tell you everything you need to know about becoming an altruistic living kidney donor. And the organization that you mentioned, do you give all of that information in your book as well?
it's in the back. Yes, I have a section of references on places to look, and NKDO is there. And the foreword is actually written by the founder of NKDO, Ned Brooks. So he wrote my foreword. Yeah, all about kidney donors. And
Wow.
I also, Miss Vinnie, I included discussion questions in my book because I felt like we have in our community enough support groups and book clubs that if someone wanted to use this as an educational tool or group work tool, they could. So I have discussion questions in the back for anyone.
That's wonderful. Well, it sounds like a very good resource to have. And I think, you know what I think? I think it should be sold in hospital bookstores too.
I agree with you.
Right? What a better place to sell a book about living kidney donation than in a hospital bookstore. And
Right.
every hospital has one. They have
Yes.
gift shops, you know what I mean? And
Yes, I
yeah, get that book in the gift shop, girl. That's a great idea. I'm glad I thought of that for you. Rachel, thank you so much for sharing your powerful story and your incredible heart for advocacy. I'm so proud of you. Thank you for doing that. And your journey reminds us that one selfless act can create a ripple effect that changes countless lives. Sometimes one voice, one decision, and one act of compassion can impact generations. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for writing that incredible memoir. And I look forward to having you come back to share more with me on About Transplant Life. Is that all right?
Miss Vinnie, thank you. Thank you for the time today and getting to see you and reminiscing about one legacy and our time together.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. I got goosebumps. Well, I got goosebumps. I believe in divine connections. I really, really do. And we worked together, over the years, but I've always watched you from afar, and you've always had such a pleasant spirit, and I remember when you were going through your cancer journey. I think you came to an event, a One Legacy event one time, and I remember just silently praying for you. I did that, because, I just understand that we all go through certain valleys, and I truly believe that the Lord brings us through them all if we pray for one another. And here you are. So I'm like, what? She wrote a whole book and everything? And I'm like, I got to get her on the show. So
well, I appreciate that, Miss Vinnie. I appreciate
You're welcome, my dear. Thank you so much. And don't forget, you guys, it's on Amazon.com. She made mention of a whole bunch. Yeah, that's right, girl. Show that cover. It's available on Amazon.com, and tell them all the other places you can get it.
Barnes and Noble, Target, Hoopla, Libby. If it's not in your local library, ask them for it. Yeah.
It's in Target. Okay,
Oh,
Rachel. She's in
Target.
Target. She's bougie now. I love you, Rachel. Thank you so much for being
Hey,
here.
you too.
All right, don't go away.
Okay.
Wow, wasn't that an incredible interview? Rachel is one of my favorite people, and I'm so glad to see that she's doing well and writing books and just living her best life. So, thank you so much for watching About Transplant Life. Be sure to follow and to subscribe to About Transplant Life with Miss Vinnie on YouTube for more inspiring conversations, for education, encouragement, and stories from within the transplant community. And also, don't forget to join me every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Pacific Standard Time for About Transplant Life. I messed that up. I'm going to have to fix that. And please don't forget to join me every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. for Transplant Prayer Hour. We are praying for you, for transplant patients, recipients, donor families, caregivers, and living kidney donors like my friend Rachel. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Peace. Thank you for watching